Iron Maiden's The Final Frontier might just be their most misunderstood album of the 21st century.
It's just outrageous.
So, in honor of its 15th anniversary, let's take a closer look at what really connects this strange cosmic beast of a record, whether it was ever meant to be a full-on concept album, and why The Final Frontier is actually so divisive for Iron Maiden fans. Here you go. Real quick, as always, please do not hesitate to comment on anything you hear or see in this video, and especially if you disagree with me, because the whole point of our Up the Irons series is, of course, to start a conversation. But alright, let's do it! In 2010, Iron Maiden were in a very unusual place for a band that had already been around for 35 years. Following the massive success of Brave New World and Dance of Death, the band dropped A Matter of Life and Death, a serious, dark, and almost conceptual record, and then made a bold decision to perform it in full every night on tour. And while some fans absolutely loved that move, others felt somewhat alienated. They came to scream The Number of the Beast, which before that tour had never been skipped since its release, and instead got hit with a 75-minute progressive metal sermon, which I actually think was a great and a very bold idea.
Yeah, me too.
But even with that divisive choice, Iron Maiden were still completely dominated. They were selling out arenas and stadiums across the globe, their albums were debuting at the top of the charts, and the Flight 666 film and Somewhere Back in Time tour cemented their legacy with a whole new generation of fans.
Wakey, wakey!
So when it came time to write a record which would eventually become The Final Frontier, the band was somewhat at a crossroads. Especially given the fact that every Iron Maiden fan remembered that back in the 1980s, Steve Harris allegedly said that he wants Iron Maiden to release 15 studio albums and call it quits. So despite the whole fact that by 2010 no one really remembered the interview where Steve actually said that, and it was basically a myth circulating around the Iron Maiden community, still, the anticipation of the upcoming 15th studio album was simply insane and worrying at the same time.
Oh my god!
And then Iron Maiden finally announced their new record, right away saying that it will be the longest one they ever did by then, and calling it The Final Frontier. And the hype around it simply shot through the roof. When The Final Frontier was first announced, a lot of Iron Maiden fans, myself included, in addition to biting our nails wondering if it will be the last one for Iron Maiden, had one other very specific question. Is it going to be a concept album? And you know what? At a first glance, it really looked like one.
Taking evasive action, over and out.
Starting with the artwork, which by the way sparked a huge wave of debate among the Iron Maiden fans when it first dropped. Drawn by longtime collaborator Melvin Grant, known to every Iron Maiden fan by Fear of the Dark and Virtual 11, the cover featured a grotesque alien-like creature with sharp fangs, exposed bone structure and glowing eyes, lurking over a crashed spaceship and skeletons in deep space. So on one hand, nothing extra special. But on the other, the craziest part about it was that a lot of fans actually believed that it was not Eddie. No, seriously, for the first time in Iron Maiden history, people were genuinely unsure whether the creature on the cover was actually their iconic mascot, and that really threw people off, which I think is kind of weird, because at least to me, he always did look like Eddie. And if we take a closer look at how the illustrations developed, we'll see that it was simply Eddie made to look scarier than usual, and nothing more. And by the way, in his bone structure, the alien Eddie, for some weird reason, always reminded me of the Evil That Men Do Eddie, which, yeah, I know it's kind of weird, but for some weird reason, I always felt like they were really alike. So yes, even if Maiden didn't explicitly say in their promo campaign, this is going to be a concept album, everything about the visual presentation, from the alien Eddie to the wreckage in space, suggested that the band was building a thematic universe around this record. And then came the promo campaign. Instead of traditional press rollout, Maiden went full retro-futuristic. The fonts, the website design, even the tone of the official materials. Everything had that early 60s space opera feel. Fans were decoding binary codes, clicking through glitchy sci-fi terminals and unlocking audio and video content as if they were hacking into an interstellar satellite. And all of that tied directly into the album and its Mission Edition, which was released later on alongside the expanded edition of the record, and included an interactive flash-based space game that let you navigate a virtual ship, decode transmissions, and explore fragments of Maiden lore. It was immersive, it was weird, and it was very Maiden-like.
I could survive to live one more time. I wouldn't be changing a thing at all.
But again, it felt like a cohesive world, like a concept was baked into the DNA of this album, even though no one explicitly said so. Which brings up the big question. If it walks like a concept album, talks like a concept album, and looks like a concept album, many expected The Final Frontier to be a concept album. But not quite. And that, I believe, is what made it somewhat strange for many. To this very day, I actually believe that the promo campaign for The Final Frontier was the best Iron Maiden had in their entire career. Overall. And even if we compare it to the band's latest studio output, Senjutsu, well, the Belfador's Feast promo was simply incredible and built a wonderful hype around the first single off of it. In reality, it didn't really tie together the theme of the album at all. But when it comes to The Final Frontier, everything was simply spotless, starting with the overall aesthetics and ending with the amazing retro-futuristic posters Iron Maiden came up with for all of the singles they released for this record. And this, together with the hype around the 15th studio record for Iron Maiden, helped The Final Frontier to get the first Grammy following the two previous nominations for Fear of the Dark and The Wicker Man, and become the highest charting album in the United States Iron Maiden have ever had in their career by then. But at the same time, this incredible promo campaign kind of also played a wicked joke with The Final Frontier. As when the album finally dropped on August 16th, 2010 around the world, the fans first of all realized that it wasn't really a concept record, although there are of course certain recurring themes that are running throughout all the songs on this album. And music-wise, despite being the longest album Iron Maiden released by then, and despite several experiments Iron Maiden did on The Final Frontier, well, if we're being very honest, it wasn't really a huge deviation music-wise from a matter of life and death. And unlike several previous records, it also didn't really have a very catchy standalone single, which Iron Maiden fans have been kind of spoiled with before.
Yep.
But what we did get instead was a very solid post-reunion Iron Maiden record. Much stronger than 99% of music released that same year. Yet despite that, many fans still weren't too thrilled about it. And I have to be honest with you, I was actually one of those. I still remember the time when I first heard that album. I just got to London, went into my new room in South Kensington and put this album on for the very first time. I was so excited to hear it, and I did like it a lot. But I actually remember myself thinking that it might be not enough for me. And this is exactly what is the strangest thing about The Final Frontier. As with this album, Iron Maiden kind of opened a new era for the band. An era in which no matter how good of an album Iron Maiden actually release, it still might not be good enough for many Iron Maiden fans. As after their golden years in the 1980s, and especially after their reunion and Brave New World, Iron Maiden went to an absolutely different category of a band, which elevated the expectations of their diehard fans to the heights which are virtually impossible to touch. And the thing is that, at least for me, that stigma of The Final Frontier not being perfect enough actually remained up until this year. Until I started making this episode, which at first was supposed to be about a completely different thing regarding The Final Frontier, and I actually re-listened to this album from the very beginning until the very end. And I don't mean just like put it on and listen to it, but actually listen to it. And you know what? I'm very glad to say that it has actually grown a lot on me over the past 15 years. Yet at the same time, when we talk about 2010, and if we're being very honest, and please remember that I love Iron Maiden, this album was an almost album. It was an almost concept record, it was an almost new direction musically, and it was almost Iron Maiden's last one. And maybe that's why it became an almost beloved record for many Iron Maiden fans.
Have a good life, do it again. Let me out come back sometime, I'm afraid.
But anyways, what do you guys personally think about The Final Frontier, and how do you think it has aged over the past 15 years? Please let us know in the comments. As always, thank you so much for watching this video, guys, and we will prevail. Slava Ukraini!